Sinbad gets lost in science. It says that there are thousands of land, because Sinbad has to land on an island. Okay, so what do you think we could do with this vocabulary? How could we tie this into if? Okay, well, what I like to do is here, box here, box here, box here, box here, box here, and so on and so on. Split the class into 2 teams. I don't want 4 or 5 teams because it's going to take too long. Sometimes it's the boys versus the girls, but that's up to you. Just don't play the dumb ones versus the smart ones. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. And then what I tell them is, I want you to use this vocabulary to make if sentences. Now, this is going to require them to be quite creative. But I've found that, you know, sometimes when I think, oh, they're not going to be able to do this, and then, oh, wow, they actually can. Because it's not just one person as well, it's the whole team. However, my requirement is that when the whole team is making a sentence, I watch them. I don't just make sure that it's like the smart one telling all of the other ones what it is. And I want to say, okay, there's 8 people in this team. It's not one person, so I want all of you to cooperate and come up with sentences. So don't come to me yet, practice the sentence, and when you have the sentence, come to me and they'll have a sentence for me. So for example, they might say, if there is, we will die. It's good enough, right? You know, the other team might say, like, if we cut down all the trees, because I taught them about trees producing plants, if we cut down all the trees, there will be less oxygen in the air, right? So they've got it there, travel, you know. Don't forget your passport if you want to travel to another country. You know, so they're using all of these things, right? My dad doesn't like to drink coffee if it is too sugary. You know? Now, maybe the students can't do this. So sometimes you might have to give them a little bit of help. Sometimes I'll do exactly what I'm doing now. I will even make sentences with all of them right now, but I'll tell them, don't just copy the sentences that I just made. Some of them will try to do that. You can quickly go through it, and then let's say we got team A. Team A finishes using oxygen, they check it. You know, they might even be able to combine 2 of the words in one sentence, because this is a way that I practice my vocabulary, right? If there is no oxygen, if there is no what was it now? Okay, if there is no land, if there is no land for animals to live on, thousands of animals will die. You know, so they've got 2 sentences there. So sometimes they start becoming quite creative, you know, and they can surprise you. I've had some. I remember one time I did this with my students. It wasn't about if, but it was just making sentences. And then one smart student said, Teacher Michael, I've got a sentence with all the words. What's that? If, travel, explore, sugary spike, small desert, thousands of, and land are words that are in our vocabulary this week. No, I can't accept that. So this is a good way, you know, and then this way they can be totally creative. They're not looking at words in the book. They're not putting words into their mouth. These words are coming from their own minds, and that can prove to you they're learning something, right? So that's quite satisfying. So yeah, incorporate the different vocabulary. So this is one thing that you can do. Okay. Another useful activity is when I whisper a sentence in my teacher's ear. I don't say, I love you, darling. But, Gillian, can you come for a second?
No.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'm not going to use my tongue. I just want to cough in your ear. That's right. But the kids like this. You know, we have no Chinese in class. Right. There's no law that says you can't speak Chinese in class. So, like for example, I was like the younger ones. I want them to they're having trouble with the 3rd person, for example. Like, so, Johnny, Johnny will get in trouble if he fails the test again. I mean, that might be quite difficult for them. You want to make sure that you're going to give them a sentence that they'll know how to spell. You know, but if sometimes there are some words that they don't know how to spell, I might just write it on the board. You can just introduce new vocabulary that way, right? So blah 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 blah, and then Gillian will tell the rest of the students, right?
Tell them in Chinese.
You tell them in
And then they have to write
Chinese.
down the
So they're translating.
He speak Chinese. He speak English and I speak Chinese to them, and then the kids need to write down what's the sentence.
Yeah.
And the kids will say, how many words? How many words?
Yeah, good. I have to do that because sometimes Gillian gets a little bit tired painting her nails, combing her hair, chatting to her friends. No, I'm just joking. Chinese teachers work hard, you know. But they like that. They seem to like that, and they get stronger and stronger at it the more that you practice. Yeah, it's just a fun way, right? It's a different way. I've always enjoyed doing that. So little whisper games. And another thing, I just thought about this morning. We have to write. This is something that I do, and I don't know about other schools, but you've all done the compositions in these books, right? And some of them, the pictures, yeah, I understand the point, like you got 4 pictures and then you write a story about it. But sometimes, to be honest, I don't find them very, very interesting. So, and then if you ask, and then also when you ask students to write about something that's not their own experience, maybe the stronger ones can do it, but the other ones, they just write a lot of gibberish. And then the whole page is full of circles, and helping 18, 20, 25 students to write a composition is exhausting. You know, they have to write their first copy, and then you fix all the mistakes, and then even when they got their final copy, it's still wrong. And then sometimes even their style, there's no point to their story. You know, it doesn't make sense because it's forced. Because you're asking them to write about something that really they don't care about or don't have any feelings about. So, I should get another book for this one, because this is a slightly older one. Let's say here, where's the composition? I'll find one in a minute. Okay, wonderful. There are no compositions in this one. Okay. Well, you know when you get the composition, you get 1 page for the first copy, right? And then you get 1 page for the final copy. Now, I know that when people come to check the books, sometimes we lose points if all of the compositions are the same, right? And I've done that before too, and I still do that to some point when I feel that the story that the book is asking us to write is not interesting enough. So what I do is I sometimes get the students with me as a class to create a composition that we're all going to have. So it's not just me telling them what the story is, but we're all combining. I'm listening to different ideas. And then I asked them, okay, so you gave me an idea, you gave me an idea, and you gave me an idea. And I'll ask them, so which one do you want to use? Which one did you think is the best one to use in this sentence? So then we create a composition together. Now, if we do that, everyone's going to have the same composition in their book, and we're going to lose points. So, one other thing that I do is, on the page that I haven't used, I will sometimes get them to make a composition using the grammar, or about the science, or about the story that we are learning. So on 1 page I've done what the book has asked me to do, but on the second page, if we've got a composition this week, I can ask them to write an if composition, and this one they can do it on their own, and it can be quite funny. Sometimes I'll actually do 3. I'll do the main one, and then I'll sometimes have a couple of short ones, so that way they don't complain when they check the books, because they can see that we've done one story, and then we've got two completely original done by themselves, so they've got 3 compositions. But these ones are not so complicated. For example, if. Here's a good example, and you can do this orally. Like I give them a beginning. I'll give them a beginning. So I say, if John wakes up early, what will happen? We're going to go through his whole day. If John wakes up early,
he will have breakfast with his girlfriend.
but what's the relationship between waking up late and having breakfast with his girlfriend?
She has to go to work.
Well, you're thinking too much. But thanks for trying. Yeah. Okay. Now I'll just try and keep it simple. Like if he wakes up late, he'll miss the bus. He'll miss the bus, right? Okay. So that's the first sentence. And then next sentence, if he misses the bus, he'll
be late
for work. Next sentence, if he is late for work, his boss will kick his ass. You know, and then the story could become something like John's bad day. You know, or the sentence, or the composition could just be called if. If, you know, if he goes to work late, his boss will fire him. If his boss fires him, he will have to tell his wife. If he tells his wife, she will leave him. If she leaves him, she will take the children. If she takes the children, he'll start drinking. If he starts drinking, he'll become an alcoholic. And if he becomes an alcoholic, he'll die of liver cancer. Obviously, you don't need to have such a horrible, sad story. Although my students prefer those ones. Yeah. They don't like that. If they fall in love, they will get married and live happily ever after. Boring! Let's talk about liver cancer. You know, and then that's great, right? Because now and then after you've done one together, you can like get them in teams of 4 or 5, and then you can tell them, okay, I just want a composition. Let's say we have the story can have about, let's say, about 8 sentences with if, and it's like a chain reaction, you know, and so they're using if in a composition, and they've got something nice in there, and it's fun, you know. And sometimes the places, like when they do those stories, some of the places where they end up are quite ridiculous. I don't know how, like, you go from, if John wakes up early, and then the next one, he will be kidnapped by aliens. So how did you get from waking up early to being kidnapped by aliens? But it's creativity, it's fun. And they're also using the language that they're supposed to be using. And then you've got a nice little composition to fill up that pages. You know, another one we were doing passive voice recently in my class downstairs, and I forgot. You remember the story that we did about passive voice? They did one in their books.
You mean in their writing books?
Yeah. Do they still have them?
I can go check it.
Oh, okay. Anyway, it was. I can remember roughly now because we're doing passive voice, and so. Like we did a story, like I asked them to make a news report in passive voice, you know, so they could be like, last night the president was kidnapped, you know, the White House was attacked by ISIS members. He was taken to a secret location. There he was beaten, tortured, and tickled. You know, fortunately, he was rescued by the CIA. You know, right now he is being treated in hospital. You know, and then again, so like you're using the grammar from from Roundup, and you're incorporating it into a story. And I find that much more useful than writing one story like from those pictures and then a final copy. It's very time consuming, and I think that what I was doing, I don't always do that. You know, sometimes the grammar will give you an idea, like this one with the if, you know, the chain reaction. It just comes very naturally, and other times no, you know, you can't really think of anything. But sometimes the language can inspire you, you know. So instead of having the one composition written twice, you've got 3. And it's helped them. So that's also a good idea. I recommend you do that whenever you can. And the final thing, I've given you all 3 little bits of paper. I'm sure it's nothing that you've never seen before. So the first page, maybe you could write out all of these on the whiteboard. We call them prompts. Well, we give them the beginning of a sentence and they have to finish it. So just like we ask students to make sentences with this vocabulary, put them in teams, all the girls or the boys, and then they have to work together. So all the girls, okay, if people drop litter everywhere, Taiwan will be as dirty as London. Or then they come to you and they tell it. The next one, if China attacks Taiwan, we will throw chou tofu at the Chinese soldiers. Jason will celebrate if Michael retires. Michael will get fired if he hits another student. Don't laugh at me if my underpants fall down. Anything like that. Ask me if you need help. So again, you know, you're getting them to speak. This is the oral practice that they need. You know, and each time they finish one, it's tick, 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 tick until they get to the bottom. And then it could be a break time or I don't know, some candy from the store. Trip to, because we're lucky here because when we come out of Sunshine, we got a supermarket right next door. So it's easy to take the students down to the supermarket. But these things, they like it. They like. I've never find the last one there. If Tai Ing-wen wins the election, anybody want to finish this? Well, she did. But let's just imagine that we don't know the results then. What's going to happen? Taiwan will continue to be exactly the same. I don't know how political you are, but we have an expression in English and I can't say it. Same, but a different smell. I mean, some of my foreign friends might understand. I don't want to say anything. I'll better stop before I get in trouble. I'll probably be deported by the government. Okay, so yeah, so this is like a nice little oral. Sorry. Huh? Okay, nice little oral practice for them. And then again, you can, you know your students. You can have some fun. You know, if someone's got like a bad temper, you can say like, if you call Johnny a bad name. And everybody knows, oh, he will get angry. So you can incorporate the students' personalities, use things that are topical, that are in the news. I always like to criticize Justin Bieber. If I hear another Justin Bieber song, blood will come out of my ears. Okay, here's a good one, very simple. And this one is actually, this is more like an if exercise from the Roundup book. But again here, this helps them to focus not on the punctuation, not on the capitalization, but on the forms. If she invites, I will go. So this is all good stuff. And again, it's a way of strengthening their verb form, making them pay attention to the verbs. Again, you can do this, you know, give them the points on the whiteboard. Maybe even ask them to work in teams, although I just worry sometimes if you ask the students to do a worksheet together, maybe one student will tell all the others what to do. So it depends if you can trust people to be independent and not just wait for the others to give them answers. So a handy little thing like that, very simple. And then you don't have to fill it in, I'm not going to mark it. I've done enough marking. I'm not doing any more marking until one day before they come to check the books. Oh, we got the lowest score this time, right? 80, how 丢脸! Oh, and it was my my fault. I told you to Gillian, I've checked all the books very carefully. Very carefully. Huh, yeah, right. So, sorry. The last page. You want to turn over to the last page? Oh, no, just a little handout here. There's one more here. And this is what I was talking, like we were talking about, maybe we don't have so much time for worksheets. But Teacher Gillian gave me this idea because I used to have the worksheets with like 18, 19, 20 questions. And I made them fun, so they weren't boring to do, but it still took a long time to do it. So like here you've got like four sentences. And you can see some of them, I've just included one about Sinbad just to remind you that you can incorporate different things. So we got four different sentences there, and all they need to do is, this is something that maybe you can give them as homework. It's not too much, right?
Yeah,
It's not just 4 or 5 sentences, maybe once or twice a week.
Daily homework. Just
Yeah,
one.
but you know, the Teacher Gillian, we always worry about that. It's because the students, when they do their homework, they're not as careful as when they are in the class. So this can be quite frustrating. Because often when I go downstairs, I see Teacher Gillian with very unhappy look on her face, and she'll say, Michael, you won't believe how bad their homework was. And I'm like, oh. And I'm disappointed because, again, I think, like, is it because they don't understand, or was it just because they were careless? And usually, you ask them, and then if they did particularly badly as punishment, I will give them the same thing and I will make them do it again in the classroom. Quite mean look on my face. But then, after they've done that, you will often find that they will do it perfectly. So they're all like, yeah, I got all of them right. So why the hell did you make 3 mistakes when you did it at home? I don't use the word hell. So why did you make so many mistakes? But then at least you know that they made the mistakes because they were careless. And also you want them, with these little 4 or 5 questions, you want them to do them as accurately as possible, because that is how they are tested on in the big test. Okay? So accuracy, punctuation, lots of oral practice, and I hope that I've run out of ideas now, so I hope that I've given you some useful ideas to apply. Any questions? Yes? So let me understand, so if they just graduated from kindergarten? Oh, they didn't, so they're in the 4th grade, okay. Very poor. Yeah.